Thanks for logging on to myfoxhurricane.com. So we're very close to that peak, just 4 days away from the peak of the hurricane season. And I think we've all noticed that huge uptick in activity over the past couple of weeks. And we're still watching areas out there. We now have Tropical Storm Lee. We have this other area, Invest 96, which just worked its way off the coastline of Africa. And then we're also still watching the remnants of once Hurricane Franklin. That may try and reestablish itself and maybe try and reacquire some of those tropical or maybe subtropical characteristics over the next couple of days. Obviously, a pretty low chance of that, and it's well to the north, so not a big concern there. But here is a really close-up view, high-resolution satellite imagery of now Tropical Storm Lee. What you're looking at here is imagery taken every single minute. So you can really, look and you can see just all those storms just bubbling up right near the center. And when this is the center, you're seeing more of that storm activity really starting to wrap around the center of this system. So all indications are it is just continuing to organize itself. Now, it has had some east and northeasterly wind shear, so you do see a little bit of a dry slot in here, and some of the outflow has been a little bit hampered on that eastern side of the storm, but that is expected to lessen as we go through about the next, say, 24 to 36 hours. And after that, really conditions become very conducive for more development. So it's right on the edge of the screen, and it's going to be working its way in this direction. So you see, as far as the water temperatures, these are about some of the warmest water temperatures we have seen across the tropical Atlantic really ever. I mean, these are very warm water temperatures, and not only is it at the surface, but we're talking very deep into the ocean as well. So extremely warm water. We have ideal conditions as far as the winds in the atmosphere. That's why when you read the discussions from the Hurricane Center and we look at the modeling, that's why you're seeing this really kind of ramping up so quickly. So here is the 11 a.m. advisory. Winds right now are at 70 miles an hour, but it just continues to organize itself. Now, you look on this view here, you can see kind of those wispy clouds. That's that high, thin cirrus clouds. So you've got that outflow on the northern, the northwestern, all the way around. It's only on that eastern side where some of that wind shear is just kind of hampering some of that outflow. But again, I mentioned that's going to be going away, and all indications are it will really start to blossom after that. In fact, you look at that official forecast track, and that really hasn't changed much. The computer models really doing a good job with that. The other thing is so many of the computer models are just ramping this intensity up. Remember yesterday we were talking about a tropical depression, and by the end of the forecast track it was a Category 4. Now we have a tropical storm, and we're talking about a very strong Category 4, just bordering on a Category 5 hurricane. So just really impressive. And it just shows you when you get those ideal conditions and you have those very warm waters, what the possibilities are. So when you look at all the various computer models, and one of the things we're also looking at is the European. This is the European ensembles. Ensembles is basically, we're just running the model over and over again, and there's different start conditions. There's different things that are changed about it, so you can kind of look at the different variations of this. And what you're seeing in that beginning part, you see that tight clustering. It's not towards the end, until the end where you start to see more of that spread. And a big part of that is that ridge that's to the north. It's the developing trough, and it's slowing down. It's starting to make that turn. So exactly where it makes that turn, that's really a big key. Now, we're not so concerned about effects over Florida, or at least being hit by a system, but some of the effects. If this turns slower, that brings some of the strong waves closer, not only to our state, but the eastern seaboard. So there still can be some effects from this as it works its way by. But really, all the modeling is showing that turn to the north. But we have to watch and see exactly when that turn happens. So here we're looking at the European in white, the GFS is in red, and our own exclusive Fox model in green. And so again, you watch through time, they're all fairly tightly clustered, but as we go towards the end of this, you start to see a little bit more of a spread. Now our own Fox model pushing this a little bit faster and a little bit further towards the west, and we are seeing indications from other models as well. Maybe a little bit more of a westward adjustment could happen with this. Now, a little bit more towards the west obviously puts it closer to some of the islands, but it does look like it should safely pass to the north of all these islands down to the south. So what's steering this? Is that ridge of high pressure. It's that developing trough along the east coast, and it just gets right in the middle of that and finds that weakness, and it just kind of wraps right around that ridge. That trough picks the system up and steers it on towards eventually the north and the northeast. But if that trough is a little bit weaker, it may not turn as quickly. That ridge is a little bit stronger, a little bit weaker. It really kind of changes where it does this turn. That's where we really have to fine tune that forecast as we go through the next several days. So what you see right now, I think is very close. It may not be exactly what we see as we go through the next several days. But as you look at the wind field with the Fox model, the one thing you notice is all the strong winds. We've got 100+ mile-an-hour winds right near the center, but it does look like it should pass safely enough to the north of the islands that it keeps the strongest winds away from them. But remember, any little deviation, this goes a bit further to the south, and they could be subjected to some of those stronger winds. So again, we're going to continue to fine-tune this forecast over the next several days, and we'll keep you posted right here on myfoxhurricane.com.